everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Scholar Chit Chat. I'm your host, Goodness, and today we have a special guest. Today on the will I say on the hot seat? Okay, no, not on the hot seat, on the cool seat. His name is Alson. He has successfully gotten funding to study in Malaysia. And please do join me in welcoming our guest, Alson, to the show. Welcome, Alson.
Thank you so much, Goodness. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and share my experiences. And I hope that at the end of this interview or podcast, people will get one or two tips that will help them in their journey or quest to further their studies. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much. So let's just start off with it. First of all, I want you to introduce yourself, giving us a brief background, your country, your field of study, and what you're currently doing.
Okay, thank you. My name is Alson Kumbulani Makakula. I'm from the Kingdom of Eswatini, which was formerly known as Swaziland. And I'm currently in Malaysia, where I'm pursuing my Master of Computer Science at the University Putra, Malaysia, through the sponsorship of the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, also known as MTCP. So I also hold a bachelor's degree in IT from the Valley University of Technology and a diploma in computer science.
Okay. So how were you able to get information about this scholarship, particularly? Because it's not something that's let me just put it like it's not really as common as like the MasterCard scholarship, the Chevron scholarship. So how were you able to get information about the scholarship? How were you able to know about the scholarship?
Yeah, you're very right, Goodness. Myself, I did not know about the scholarship at first. I must admit to that. So what happened is it's a bit of a bittersweet experience that I had, because I received a rejection from one scholarship that I applied for that year, which was back in the year 2022. And after so much time I'd invested in this quest of getting the scholarship and looking at the material that I already had, after receiving this bad news or sad news, I then decided to just do a random search, an internet search of any open awards that I can tap into. And luckily for me, I then find myself landing on this Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, or MTCP scholarship, which was open at that time. So I then decided to apply for it.
That's beautiful that you went as far as, because like myself, this is like my first time of hearing about that. Okay, there is a scholarship in Malaysia, and let me know, what does the scholarship cover? Does this cover your fare, your feeding, your school materials, or what does the scholarship cover, or it entails?
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Goodness. Well, the scholarship covers full tuition, actually. That is your tuition fee for the university that you are studying in. It also covers your return ticket from back and forth from your home country to Malaysia and back. And then it also provides a monthly stipend, which is tenable or payable within 2 months, which is around 3,500 ringgit. So that stipend is what you can use then to take care of your meals and accommodation and whatnot. Otherwise, they pay directly to the university your tuition fee, and then they pay you this monthly stipend, which is tenable in 2 months.
So, sorry, if I get that straight, the stipend covers 2 months?
Yes, which means in each...
every 2 months?
Yeah, in every 2 months, they pay you an amount of 7,000 ringgit, which covers 2 months, which is 3,500 ringgit for each month, basically.
Oh, so that means the scholarship covers the stipend, the tuition, and the fare?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. During your application process, was there anything like an application fee that you had to pay?
Okay, for this particular scholarship, there is no application fee. I think it's one of the reasons I opted for it. Application fee I paid was towards the university application. Otherwise, for the scholarship, there was no particular fee attached to the application.
This is interesting. So I want to get a little bit of clarity. So towards the application for the university, there was an application fee.
Yes, that's correct.
All
For
right.
the investigation fee, I had to pay a fee of around $60.
Okay, please. The school application and the scholarship application, are they different entirely? Like, are they two bodies or are they different bodies or the same one? For instance, let me give you an instance. In Sweden, right? If you're applying to all this Sweden or Finland, the application process are two different things. You apply to the school differently, then you apply for the scholarship differently. So they have two bodies. So that means in this aspect, so you also have two bodies. The scholarship body is different, while the university body is different.
With my experience, these are two independent processes. So the scholarship requires you to have an admission or offer letter from a Malaysian university. The application to the university is a separate process by itself. So I had to make the application to the university first before I could then apply to the scholarship after I had been accepted to the university. Well, maybe to put things into context, I must say that since I've already stated that I started this process in 2022. So
Wow.
When I discovered this open scholarship grant, I think the deadline was within a space of 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 weeks. So what I did is, after discovering that I was required to have a university admission, I then applied to a university. Unfortunately, that application process got delayed for some reasons that maybe I will share as the interview continues, but then which then made my application for that period or that year invalid or incomplete, because I couldn't get the offer on time. So by the scholarship deadline, I only submitted an application without the Malaysian offer or offer letter. So what I then did is I then deferred my offer to the next intake of the scholarship so that I can use the same offer to apply for the scholarship, which was then eventually successful, which was in 2023.
Wow. I think this scholarship is one scholarship that is distinct out of it, because certain scholarship won't even allow you to defer admission. They'll want you to reapply again the following admission year for you to be eligible for the scholarship. But for this, I think this is a good one. At least you won't have to pay application fee twice because you lost out in the first one. Okay, so concerning the eligibility, what are the criteria process?
Okay, for eligibility, it's quite simple. Okay, you have to be an international student from an MTCP recipient country. I think that information is available on their website. Their website is mtcp.kln.gov.my, sorry. But then I think a shortcut to reaching that page is just searching MTCP scholarship or MTCP scholarship on Facebook, because they only have a Facebook page. They don't have a LinkedIn page and any other. I'm not sure of other social network platforms, but I only know of the Facebook page where they frequently post updates. So I would advise people our listeners to just go there and find the link to the website, and then they can find the eligibility and all the relevant information for the scholarship. But you have to be 45 years or younger, and then you should have a minimum of a second class upper division honors degree with a cumulative GPA of 3.0 and above. And they also require you to have, it's 3.0.
Okay.
It's 3 basically, yeah, and above. And they require you to have taken some English language proficiency exams like the IELTS with a score of 6 and above, or the TOEFL IBT with a total score of 60 and above. They are also open to graduates or applicants who have done their undergraduate education in an English medium institution, So you can use that letter from your institution that says that this institution is an English medium institution, that is, teaching and research is conducted in English in that institution. So they also accept that particular letter as proof of your English proficiency. So
Okay,
for
so
me, I
that
used that. I didn't have to take the exams. I just used my letter from the Value University of Technology where I studied, which is an English medium institution. They just wrote a letter for me and then I uploaded it.
all right. So I want to ask, you made mention of the CGPA, that's the cumulative score for you to apply like 3.0 and above. On what scale is it? Because in some schools they have like 5.0 scale.
Yeah, it's interesting. Their scale is the Malaysian scale is up to 4.
The 3.0 scale, what's like the highest grade one can get aside that 3.0 scale?
I think it's probably a 70 in the percentile score, 70 or above, or maybe 65 and above.
All right, so why I asked that question is because, like in some African countries like Nigeria, a 3.0 scale is on the second class lower, not second class upper.
Oh, I see. So your scale is up to 5, right?
Yes, the scale is up to 5. So the highest is 5.0 scale. So if you're having 3.0 scale, that means you're second class lower.
Okay, I think in this context, the 3.0 is in a scale of 4. I think what they would then do is they would then convert your CGPA from that 5.0 scale to their 4.0 scale, because that's what they did for me in the university application anyway. They then converted my score, because mine was the percentile score. They then converted it into their CGPA score.
Okay, so let's move away from there. From aside the academic requirements, are there other requirements like do you need to write an SOP, a reference letter to add to your application process?
Yes, over and above the academic requirements, you are indeed expected to write 2 essays. Actually, there is the field of study essay where you justify your field of study that you want to study, that you want to undertake a master's, your postgraduate or your master's study in. And then they also require you to also write another essay, which is the statement of intent. And then on top of that, you are required to have 2 referees to support your application. So the areas of study are also listed in there is relevant documentation in the website that I've already directed listeners to, which is their official website. So,
okay, so can you walk us through the steps and the process on how you prepared towards each of the stage of your application? Like, do you have any specific strategies that helped you during the application?
For me, I think I would say I was fortunate because I already had the information, right? Maybe I can disclose that the scholarship I had applied for was the Achievement Scholarship, which I later got a rejection. So for the Achievement Scholarship, I think you may know, though this session is not about Achievement, but I think you may know that you are well aware that there are 4 essays that are required. So for me, I just had to consolidate whatever information I had into the 2 essays, which were required by the MTCP scholarship, which I found to be quite simple for me because I already had the information. It was just a matter of me tailoring it for this specific scholarship. But to answer your question, what I did to come up with the essays in the onset was I did a bit of research on people who previously applied for the scholarship, that is Achievement, and then tried to find any resources online that I could use as for reference. Then from that information that I got, I then sat down and came up with my own unique essays. Then for this scholarship, to be honest with you, I had all the information in abundance. So it was just a matter of chopping and changing and taking whatever I felt useful and compacting it to these 2 essays that MTCP required.
Okay, so how were you able to the informations you digested? Where did you get them from? Was it from on site? You had a mentor that had to mentor you to guide you through the process, or there were some sites you used, or you had to get some past questions from previous applicants?
Yeah, it's a combination of many factors actually. It's not one because I was fortunate enough to have people who had applied and were awarded the achievement scholarship at my workplace. So honestly, those were the people that I used for mentorship and for even checking my essays to ensure the rigor and if they addressed whatever expectations that scholarship required. But for MTCP scholarship, like you rightfully pointed out in the beginning of the interview, that the scholarship is not that much popular. So really, it was me just casting my net into the deep without any navigation or whatsoever. But because I had this wealth of information already with me, I then found it easy to just navigate this unknown path, which it was to me at that time. But fortunately, it's quite simple, really. I don't want to make it seem to be very complicated to listeners. It's a very simple process. It's a very straightforward process. Like I say, that they have all the information, all the guidelines, the expectations, and whatsoever in their website. So once you digest that information, then you then have an idea of what they actually want. Maybe for the essays, probably there isn't much information out there that they've put. But then I think wherever you apply, even for universities, sometimes they need you to probably provide a statement of intent. So I think it's essays that we are well aware of. And then the other one is the one for the field of study, like I rightfully mentioned prior to this, that you need to just justify your field of study and it has to be relevant to the sponsored disciplines that the scholarship offers.
So at the point where you were trying to make your application, right? Obviously, there would have been several universities. What factor did you consider when selecting these universities and courses to apply for? What were the factors you had to look out for?
Thanks for that. Goodness, you are very right. Okay, maybe one can also mention that the scholarship covers a certain list of universities that are also listed in the documentation and their website. So it doesn't cover any university. So you should make sure. I would encourage listeners to make sure that the university they apply to is listed in the scholarship. So for me personally, it was not just to come to Malaysia to study. The university I study in mattered a lot. So I just did my research, checked the top universities in the country. In that year, the top two were the University Malaya, and then number 2 was the University Putra Malaysia, which I ended up applying for. So to be honest with you, I felt like there would be stiff competition for University Malaya because a lot of applicants would apply for that university, since it's the best university in the land. So I then felt I could have better chances applying for the second placed one. But to be honest with you, I intended to study in a top university. That was my personal quest and I couldn't compromise that. So yeah, I checked the QS rankings, which were my reference to check which is the top university, and I found that it was those 2 universities which I ended up applying for the second ranked one.
That's very strategic of you and ambitious, wanting to study in the top university in the country. Now, I want you as a scholar to have won the scholarship, right? So I want you to let our listeners know about what are your winning tips for applying to the Malaysian universities.
Oh, well, that's a tough one, but I'll try to address it. Winning tips, I would say, for me, just give yourself time to do your thorough research, check out what the faculty is doing, the faculty that you are applying to, and check out their members of staff in terms of their academic staff, to check if any of them are in the line of research that you would like to probably explore. in your postgraduate journey. I think that's what helped me because as soon as I checked the faculty members in the faculty website, I was then sure and determined that this is a place I would want to go to. After seeing that most of them had trained in the UK and in the US, and they held some prominent research profiles. Most of them, they are very active in research, and they are esteemed scholars, beyond just the institution. So for me, I would advise people to do that thorough research. You should probably have an idea who you would like your potential supervisor to be, and and just acquaint yourself the areas of research that the faculty is interested in, so that when you apply, your application is relevant and you know that you are going to a relevant institution.
Okay. So please, during your tips in applying to the school, was there any point where you had to do an interview?
Okay, for the university application, no, there wasn't an interview. It's just a simple and straightforward process. For UPM, it's simple and straightforward. There are no essays required. What you just need to do is to key in your personal information, your educational background, then your CV for your relevant work experience, and then they just need you to list 2 referees, which are your references. Otherwise, there is not much documentation that's needed, as opposed to some universities where I've had to write some statement of intent when applying. Here at UPM, there wasn't such a requirement. So I found it very simple, actually, and straightforward.
The Malaysian scholarship, do they have specific number of awardee or just specific numbers of people that they are going to give the scholarship to?
Okay, I forgot to make a disclaimer anyway in the beginning of the interview, that the views I'm stating in this interview are solely my personal views based on my personal experience, and don't by any means represent the position of the MTCP scholarship. And I'm here just representing myself, and I'm not representing the scholarship itself. So when it comes to the quota, I think it varies from what I gathered in my 2 years of being under the scholarship. Because during my term, I think they received over 5,000 applicants, and they only were able to award 13 of us the scholarship. Wow. So what they then told us is that the number depends on their budget for that particular year. I think in this last year, they had the highest number of awardees because the government had increased their budget for that particular year because they had performed well in the previous year. So I wouldn't say it's fixed. I think it varies depending on what MTCP is looking for that particular year and how their finances look like.
So you were saying that it varies according to how much they do have in stock for applicants each year?
Yes, that's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
So that means
so
you right now, you are one of the biggest scholars I can have on this scholar chit chat to have won the Malaysian scholarship. And I'm sure you've walked through so many others of getting to this. Can you share some tips concerning your SOP, your personal statement, or in other words, your scholarship essay?
Okay, for my scholarship essays, I think my advice would be intentional about what you want and just express your feelings, your thoughts, and your aspirations in that essay. I think with the rise of generative AI and the use of ChatGPT, probably people would then be tempted to just get an AI generated essay and just put it in there. And I would strongly advise against that, because that would minimize your chances of getting the scholarship. I think you need to make sure that those essays are personal and they show some grit, and probably you need to have some sense of your aspirations in the context of where you are, So for me, I just wrote them from scratch, just poured out my heart and my dreams out to whoever was reading, to sort of get a sense of my grit and how bad I wanted this. And I would also advise people to also not only focus, because it's easier to just focus on what you can get when you write these essays. Probably you can also throw in a paragraph or 2 on what you can offer if you are awarded this scholarship. For instance, I can make an example. In my essays, I included a line that if I am granted this particular scholarship, I would then target to publish a certain number of papers each year to contribute to the scholarly output of Malaysia, So yeah, that would be my advice, to say, don't just focus on what you can get from the scholarship and why they should give you. Also throw in a statement or two on what you can offer once they grant you the scholarship.
Yeah, that's a very nice and a very good point you stated there. For applicants who want to apply for this, like you, more like an advice for them, what common mistakes do you think prospective applicants make when applying, and how can they avoid it?
Honestly, I wouldn't know that much because I'm only privy to my own experience to the scholarship. So one would say, make sure that your application is complete to begin with. Like, make sure that you have all the necessary documentation, you have all the reference letters that are needed, the CVs and all the necessary documentation that's needed by the scholarship. Make sure that you do not compromise that, and make sure that you put more effort, like I've already alluded. I have to emphasize this, that put more effort on your essays to make sure that they show some level of grit, and they show how you can benefit also your country when you come back from Malaysia with that award. Because I think for the MTCP scholarship, it's all about empowerment, and they are strengthening ties with, they call it the South to South cooperation. So my take and my standpoint of what they are trying to do is they are trying to shape and empower the future leaders, so that when the time comes that we assume those positions, strategic positions in our countries, we already have this friendship with Malaysia. Basically they want nothing in return. There are no strings attached to the scholarship. It's just their soft diplomacy, but they know that if they have lended a helping hand to you in your journey or your quest, then definitely once you rise to power at some level, you will then remember your friends. So I would also advise you to also focus, or listeners to also focus on what their future aspirations would be in terms of attaining strategic positions in their government. I think that would also help them out in their quest to sort of like give them a shout to whoever would be reading those essays and that application. Yeah, just make sure you omit any silly mistakes. Make sure you check your details, like your email address. Make sure it's correct. That I have to emphasize. Make sure that your personal details are correct, and your email address, because they use email addresses to communicate whatever results, whatever updates that they do. Well, now they've introduced a new application platform which is quite more convenient than what we experienced in our time. So I think you are also able to log in at a later stage, just check if there's any feedback. So just make sure you remember your login credentials and whatnot, and yeah, make sure you have all the documentation and everything is in check, and just give yourself time to verify and cross-check the information. If possible, find someone who can then mentor you, or even just proofread your essays, your whole application on your behalf, to make sure that there are no omissions or any silly mistakes that are there.
All right, thank you so much, Alison. Like, you really giving us dish out a lot of information concerning this Malaysian scholarship. And one more question before we call it a wrap. What is your advice? Like, give our audience, our prospective applicants, what advice will you be giving them towards their application?
For prospective applicants, I would say just be intentional about your hopes and aspirations and dreams, because what I discovered is that where they always say where there is a will, there is always a way. For me, I've always seen that work for me, because I've always wanted to do my postgraduate studies since 2020. Which every year that went by, I never gave up on my hope. I never gave up on my dreams. Failures are there, I must say. You are going to get that rejection there. You're going to get some small wins probably somewhere, and then just take the positives in everything, and do not lose heart. Do not give up from failure. They always say it doesn't matter how many times you fall in life. What really matters is how many times you're able to dust yourself yourself and get back up. So for me, this is a story of many failures that I had to encounter and incur along the way. Like I've said, I've applied for the children's scholarship before, I think on 2 occasions without being successful, but that didn't determine or even discourage my dream and quest to study, but instead it fueled me to refine my craft, and refine my essays and everything. Yeah. So that would be my advice to the prospective applicants, to say, if you tried maybe last year, you were not successful, that doesn't mean that's not the end of the world. And that doesn't mean this year you still need to use the same essays. I mean, check your essays and see how you can refine them and how you can enhance them, to sort of like better your chances. So otherwise, it's a very straightforward process. But first, you need to have the university admission, because without it, then your application will be rendered incomplete. Otherwise, once you have that, then the scholarship application itself is a very straightforward process that is not that much complicated. The information is provided in their website, like I've said. So yeah, I would say go for it and give it your all, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Alson. Like, this session we just had now is one of the most richest session we are having, and obviously we have so many sessions that are also rich, but this one is one of the highlights for me in this session is when you talked about the deferring one's admission, that's from the previous year to the current year, and still be able to get the scholarship. Like, it doesn't work like that for some scholarship. I'm aware of, like, with some scholarship you have to reapply again, pay another additional application fee. But this scholarship is something that we need to put out there for people basically that are not really aware of this scholarship, to know about it, that such scholarship exists. So if you're not able to get in the first year and you're given an admission but you were not given the scholarship, you could actually defer your admission and try and work better on your SOP. And one last word to my people out there is be intentional about your dreams. Yes, that's coming from Alison. Be intentional about your dreams and your application. When you're writing your SOP, express yourself, aspiration. Never use AI generative essay. These Gen Zs these days, please avoid using AI to generate your SOP. Come on, write about yourself. That's actually what they want to look out for. And when there is a will, there is always a way. Thank you so much, and I'm sure to everyone still listening, you found this episode enlightening and helpful. Remember, opportunities like this can open doors to incredible experiences and the chance to make a real difference. Until next time, keep striving and